France's bombing of Greenpeace's peaceful, anti-nuclear protest ship, the Rainbow Warrior, in New Zealand waters during July of 1985 sparked conflict between New Zealand and France, as well as debates about state terrorism and international law. Eventually, New Zealand and France reached a compromise over the bombing, providing some justice to each party, creating new international ordinances, and establishing New Zealand as a powerful international voice and Greenpeace as an environmentalist force to be reckoned with. This is the Rainbow Warrior. It's a special green boat with a special rainbow, and it does special things. It's on its way to New Zealand in the name of the Earth. Actually, it's on its way to stop a French nuclear test as part of Greenpeace UK. Today, Greenpeace is an international environmentalist organization particularly oriented against nuclearism. But in 1985, everyone just thought they were a bunch of hippies who loved the Earth. Greenpeace wasn't just any old Earth Day charity, though. They were and are some pretty hardcore tree huggers.
Excuse me, but please stop killing the whales. Stop killing the whales.
So basically, it was July of 1985, and France built some new bombs that were even bigger than their other bombs. They wanted to see if the new bombs worked, so they found a sea donut called the Moroa Atoll and put some bombs on it to find out how bombed their bombs really were. But next to the atoll, there were some people hanging out in New Zealand, and they heard the island go like BAM, and then they thought to themselves, wow, we don't like that. The other South Pacific islands thought along with New Zealand and didn't like the bombs. This eventually led to the ratification of the Treaty of Rarotonga, which is a treaty between 13 South Pacific nations that declares the zone internationally free of all nuclear activity. The states are obligated not to take any action to resist or encourage the manufacture or acquisition of any nuclear explosive device by any state. Greenpeace UK up in the United Kingdom heard about the nuclear testing and thought to themselves, wow, we don't like that either. And then they thought to New Zealand, we heard he didn't like this, and concocted a plan. It's the Rainbow Warrior, and there's people on it. The crew put on their nuclear testing process hats, and they're ready to sail to the atoll and protest some nuclear testing. Knock knock, it's the Rainbow Warrior. Hey, what's up, said France. Please do not blow things up. The Rainbow Warrior sunk at midnight on July 12th, 1985, and because the only explanation was that France did it, and France said they didn't do it, nobody knew what happened.
At first, nobody was sure what had caused the huge blasts, nor if anyone was missing.
In no way was France involved. The French government does not deal with its opponents in such ways. Charles Montan, political counselor at the French embassy in Wellington. The secret spies from the French Secret Service, or Directorate General for External Security, who sunk the ship, were notoriously bad at being secret. The DGSE preferred to blame amateurish behavior of some of the saboteurs. They trailed the clues behind them like Hansel and Gretel. Elaine Chouet, senior DGSE official. Meanwhile, New Zealand was finding out that France actually was responsible for the sinking, so the conflict between New Zealand and France was born. Another conflict altogether was between France and Greenpeace. As Greenpeace was already in opposition to France's nuclear testing to begin with, it only got more intense when they sunk the Rainbow Warrior, which was Greenpeace's flagship. There were 2 explosions on the hull of the ship that detected noted were external, so the sinking was clearly intentional. Detective Alan Galbraith stated that it is possibly murder and possibly terrorism.
By the 30 seconds it took me to walk down the hull, the boat had, for all intents and purposes, sunk. The first bomb blew a hole about 6 by 6 feet through the side of the hull like you would punch your hand through a paper bag.
The French-made inflatable and motor were also found by the boat a few hours before the boat sunk. The driver was seen driving away in a large, white camper van. Some alert citizens took note of the very inconspicuous white van's license plate, and detectives used it to locate agents Elaine Maffar and Dominic Purr, who were caught trying to negotiate a $130 refund for the van they rented. The rental firm stalled the agents for long enough for the detectives to arrive. While the other agents escaped, the 2 agents who were caught were questioned and their Swiss passports found to be fake and confiscated in the Auckland District Court. As further investigation was conducted, they were also charged with conspiracy to commit arson, intentionally sinking the Rainbow Warrior via explosives, and the murder of Fernando Pereira, a Greenpeace photographer who drowned in the sinking. At this point, the public still didn't know that the operation was connected with France and the DGSE, just that it was conducted by some French people. Some detectives found out the operation was connected with France and the DGSE and started to tell people, the operation is connected with France. Aha, yes, we sank your boat, said France. Prime Minister Laurent Fabius declared that agents of the French Secret Service sank this boat. They were acting on orders. Oh, okay, said New Zealand. We're going to arrest you. The people who merely carried out the act must of course be exempted from blame. It would be unacceptable to expose members of the military who only obeyed orders and who in the past have sometimes carried out very dangerous missions on behalf of our country, announced French Prime Minister Laurent Fabius.
Peter Wilcox says it's not good enough for soldiers to simply say they were taking orders. They need to think through the morality of their actions.
Normally, a soldier should not obey an illegal order, but this was order given at the highest level of the government, so...
We're still arresting them. The Chief Justice of the Court, Sir Ronald Davidson, stated that people who come to this country and commit terrorist activities cannot expect to have a short holiday at the expense of our government and return— No! Said France. Returning to Fernando Pereira, though his drowning was unfortunate, ended up being ultimately beneficial to Greenpeace's cause.
My dad has been murdered. I don't see it as manslaughter. I don't see it as accidental killing.
His death brought huge publicity and sympathy for Greenpeace from New Zealand, bringing people to protest and resent France. France is getting madder and madder, and eventually they got so mad that they stopped selling fish. This was part of a trade ban against New Zealand, which later escalated to banning trade of lamb brains, and kiwis. At the time, New Zealand's economy was dependent on exports to the European Economic Community, so the ban would have been debilitating.
Sometimes you think, why?
Please give us fish, said New Caledonia, which was caught up in the trade ban. No, said France.
No!
New Zealand put their foot down and said, this sucks. You suck. We need some sort of group of United Nations to mediate this affair. I'll mediate your affair, said the Secretary General of the United Nations. Please give us fish, said New Caledonia and New Zealand again. Give them fish, said the Secretary General of the United Nations, and the trade ban was lifted. Here are the rules. Do not blow up boats. Do not blow up boats that are not yours. The act of sinking the Warrior was considered state-sponsored terrorism against a friendly country, so France was forced to pay compensation. Give us $20 million, said New Zealand. Okay, we will give you $6 million, said France. Give them $13 million, said the Secretary General of the United Nations, and a compromise was reached. Wait, said Greenpeace because their boat was broken. Our boat. It's broken. And then France gave Greenpeace $8.1 million to build a new boat because they broke the first one. Wait, said France, because New Zealand still had their agents. They are in jail for 10 years, said New Zealand. But can we have them back? No, said New Zealand. You can have them back, but they have to be in jail, spoke the Secretary General. We will put them on an island for 10 years. France's proposed compromise. The two agents were imprisoned on an island which was not being blown up, called the Heyo Atoll, and left to their devices.
I am pregnant.
3 months later, Agent Pereira, who was alone on the island with Agent Nafar, was found pregnant and escorted back to France. Agent Nafar, on the other hand, complained about a debilitating, incurable stomachache and was also escorted back to France.
Letting so many French agents escape jail, then that's not justice. Not in our eyes, not in my family's eyes, and I hope not in the world's eyes. And it's never too late for justice.
France failed to endeavor in good faith by attacking an allied country, so all of New Zealand's friends, including New Zealand, were mad at them, and they're still mad at them today. Because New Zealand finally annoyed France and stood up for themselves, the rest of the world realized that New Zealand was actually a real country.
The Rainbow Warrior took on a role in the country's life, an icon that gave it confidence and a sort of sense of self-worth and self-vision in a nuclear-free Pacific.
There were many short-term effects, such as France ending its nuclear tests in Polynesia, which was a victory for Greenpeace. In France, however, the two agents returned home and were hailed heroes by the public, even though the event wasn't nearly as important to the French media as it was in New Zealand. New Zealand severed ties with some Western countries like the United States for failing to condemn France's actions, instead allying with other South Pacific nations. Another victory for Greenpeace was being reimbursed for the damages to the Rainbow Warrior. The Rainbow Warrior became an incredibly important name within Greenpeace as a vessel that brought Greenpeace to worldwide fame. The original boat was scuttled and 2 successors were built, the Rainbow Warriors 2 and 3, both just as notorious as the original for their risky sabotage and infiltration missions.
It turned it from a relatively small, fringe organisation into a multinational organisation.
Apart from Greenpeace, New Zealand also had some important victories. Being involved in what was considered a treacherous act from France brought New Zealand worldwide sympathy and rendered New Zealand a powerful and independent global voice rather than just a small island in the Pacific. New Zealand and the other South Pacific countries signed the Treaty of Rarotonga, which was a treaty stating that they all didn't like nukes, but they all wouldn't like nukes together. Other international ordinances that respond from the affair, such as the 2001 Articles on State Responsibility and the Rainbow Warrior Arbitration, are important even outside of New Zealand and France, as they are often referenced in cases concerning violation of international law and state responsibility worldwide.